let's get to it. So as you guys know, Terence Crawford had an interview some days back with Travis Hartman. Now, he was talking to him about Errol Spence, and one part, he was talking about the Hall of Fame. And he basically was just saying that if they were to go ahead and retire today, he would go to the Hall of Fame and Errol Spence wouldn't.
What?
Man, sit down somewhere. Sit down somewhere.
This is exactly what he had to say during the interview, and I'll come back and give my take on it.
Errol Spence is a fighter that is a great fighter. He's done great things in the welterweight division. But when comparing, like I said, there's no comparison. You know, like when you compare Errol Spence to Terence Crawford, there was no comparison. Like my career, I'm already going to the Hall of Fame. Like if we retire right now, he's not going to the Hall of Fame. You know.
So as you guys heard, like I said before, he was basically saying that he would go to the Hall of Fame and Errol Spence Jr. wouldn't. Now I'm gonna say this: don't nobody really know the metrics on how they decide who goes to the Hall of Fame or not.
How, Sway?
Is it based on your greatness? Is it based on how many divisions that you've won titles in? Is it based on how many fights you've had? If you look in the Hall of Fame, you will see there are fighters who have had over 200 fights. But then there are fighters who haven't. Then there are fighters who are multi-divisional. Then there are fighters who are not.
I'm A-side.
It's hard to really just tell what they go by, right?
My thing is this.
Errol Spence do belong in the Hall of Fame.
Stop the cap.
And I ain't gonna even go deep into the Hall of Fame. I'm just go by this year. Now this year they inducted Timothy Bradley and Carl Froch into the Hall of Fame.
Who?
Now I'm gonna tell you like this. If Timothy Bradley go to the Hall of Fame, I believe that Errol Spence deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, look at this guy.
Now, even if somebody say, well, he was multi-division, you know, he won titles in 2 divisions, Errol Spence only won titles in 1 division. Okay, all right then, I'll give you that. Maybe that's what they're going by. But then again, they inducted Carl Froch into the Hall of Fame. Carl Froch is also just 1 division.
I'm just here to speak facts.
Just like Errol Spence. He only won titles at super middleweight. That's all. Errol Spence only won titles at welterweight. So they both 1 division. So I stand by what I say. If Carl Froch deserves to go to the Hall of Fame, so does Errol Spence. I don't usually disagree with Terence Crawford, but I definitely disagree with him on this. I believe that he's wrong, and I think that he's actually making his own self sound like he's facing nobody.
You won the belt with nobody.
He go at everybody else about them saying that he hasn't faced anybody, and he's making his own self sound like he hasn't faced anybody. If you say Errol Spence doesn't go to the Hall of Fame, you're saying that you haven't fought a Hall of Famer in Errol Spence. Don't downgrade your opponent because that doesn't look good for you. Because we don't know what Errol Spence is going to do later on in his career. He could accomplish way more. Sure, he could come back from the rematch and beat Terence Crawford. Who knows?
Stop the cap.
But I stand on what I say. If Carl Froch goes into the Hall of Fame, Errol Spence, if he were to retire today, goes into the Hall of Fame. And speaking of Carl Froch said something interesting. He was talking about Zhang, the Chinese heavyweight boxer who just knocked out Joe Joyce. He said the only one that he think who would have the guts to go up against Zhang right now would be Deontay Wilder.
To this day.
This is his actual quote. If it's going to be 200 million people watching and it's going to be over in China, I think Deontay Wilder is brave enough and good enough to take on that challenge and think he can win. He's going to be confident he can knock out Zhang. Usyk would fancy it, but I don't think he'd entertain it. Fury, maybe not. And I don't think Eddie Hearn will risk Anthony Joshua against Zhang. He deserves a shot at the WBO. At some stage, they're going to have to fight him.
Look at you scared now, you hoe.
I think that Deontay Wilder should fight Zhang since he can't get a fight with Andy Ruiz.
To this day.
And it seems like it ain't nothing happening with Anthony Joshua. He definitely should make a fight happen with Zhang. I think that'll be good for boxing. I think it'll actually be good for the heavyweight division.